Hi there and welcome. This is me explaining my company and my style of dance classes. My name is Jill and my company is called Saraswati Lifestyle. I'm going to explain to you right now the philosophy behind my approach to dance classes, a little bit about my branding, and why my dance classes are going to be excellent for your mental health. So aside from some other things that I also offer, which I'll tell you more about at the end, I offer online group belly dance classes for you and your friends. You get your friends together, you call me up, well, email, modern times, and I show up on Zoom. You can cast me onto the TV so it's nice and big, and we have a dance party together, basically. I teach you how to belly dance. I teach you how to get in touch with your femininity. I help you improve your self-confidence, and on top of the physical fitness that comes from taking any style of dance class. So I'm here for people who are fed up with the culture of the daily grind, fed up with obsession with materialism, and people who see through the superficial quick fixes for stress that we are sold on TV. You know that improving your peace of mind is a priority for your quality of life, and you are looking for companies, products, and services that are going to help you cultivate better health and happiness. How did I get here? Well, I have been a student and a performer of Egyptian Oriental dance since 2011. I also spent about 10 years practicing nursing in Ontario and Nova Scotia in Canada. I have always focused and had an interest in women's health and pediatrics. So I have worked in labor and delivery, I've worked in the neonatal intensive care unit, I've worked in postpartum, I have worked in child health and development, doing parenting classes, teaching people about attachment psychology, among other things. And that is something I'm really passionate about, which I'll tell you more about in a minute. Before I went into nursing, I did a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience, and I did an honors thesis on the link between stress, chronic inflammation, and mental health, specifically how chronic stress and inflammation predisposes us to depression and anxiety. So this has been a part of my life for a long time, and the fact that chronic stress predisposes us to chronic illnesses, including mental health issues, has been well known in the literature since the early 2000s. So it's not new information. What I noticed that society is lagging on, which is normal in terms of the amount of time it takes for things to go from becoming credible in the world of science and medicine and publication, versus how long it takes to actually trickle down to actually have impact and change in society. It takes too long. So I'm also here to help bridge that gap. So based on what I've told you so far about myself, maybe you know that I come from an academic medical family. I thought I was supposed to be a doctor like the rest of my family, which wasn't too far off, because you know what? I am really passionate about health, and I'm really passionate about helping people. The other piece of my past that comes into play right now is that I spent my childhood fighting to be seen for the artistic, loving, feminine woman that I am. Part of that was because most of my family are scientists and not artists. The other part of it is that I lost my mother to cancer when I was 3 years old. And as a result, I experienced a lot of grief and depression and anxiety. And I also grew up in a very masculine household with a single father who was working really hard to provide for my sister and I. And there wasn't a ton of feminine softness, nurturing, you're great just the way you are, honey, kind of stuff. So that predisposed me to a fair amount of depression and anxiety. It has been a part of my life since I was a teenager. And having had an interest already in health and wellness, I spent my 20s doing my best to manage those things. I have been on SSRIs, antidepressants, in the past. I have gone to therapy. I've done different kinds of therapy. I engaged regularly in exercise, and I slept well, and I ate well. All of those things are important lifestyle factors when it comes to managing mental health issues, but they weren't enough. They were better than nothing, but they weren't enough. everything changed for me when I took my first belly dance class when I was 26 years old. Why? I'll tell you more about that. The more that I dove into this world of Egyptian dance, the more that I got to know my femininity and the more I gained control over my depression and anxiety. So that's why I told you a little bit about my childhood, because that was sort of the missing link. Belly dance sort of gave me that that maternal base, that maternal nurturing that I had been lacking in my childhood in order to really dig in and uncover who I really am and feel safe expressing it. Getting control of my depression and anxiety in that way also led me to a really important realization, and that is so many people are suffering from poor mental health. It's not just me who didn't have my mother around growing up. Actually, our society and our culture is lacking that maternal, nurturing energy, the role of the feminine. Surprise, we live in a hyper-masculine society. Maybe you already knew that. If you have engaged with my content and you have found your way to this video, you probably already know that. So from a young age, we are socialized to compete, to work hard, to keep busy, to, always aim higher. And there's not necessarily inherently wrong with those things or wrong with masculinity in general, but it's the lack of balance that is a problem. We're surviving, but we're not thriving. And if we want to be able to unlock that next level of vitality, we need to cultivate things like self-love, celebrating our individuality, nurturing the self-confidence needed to unapologetically express who we really are and speak our truth. Belly dance did those things for me because it's inherently feminine and it introduced me to working with my femininity. So, as I mentioned, my dance classes are going to help you improve your physical fitness, improve your strength and flexibility, meet and learn to embody your unique femininity, celebrate your individuality, and as a result of all those things, you're going to experience improvements in your mental health. This has been my experience with the dance, and it's my wish to share it in this way with you. I also see a really interesting parallel between the inherent femininity in the dance and the lack of balance towards masculinity in our society. So a lot of people, if you are not Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, North African, you may not be as familiar with this dance as the people from those cultures are. I myself am not one of those cultures. I am half Indian, Bengali, which is why my company is called Saraswati Lifestyle. She's my favorite goddess, and she is the most venerated in West Bengal, the part of India where my father is from. Anyways, I digress. We're going off script, which I love to do. Anyways, so if you are not already familiar with those kinds of Eastern cultures, the ones that I just named, it might not be as obvious to you how important femininity is, because in the West, it's really the only way that the feminine is allowed to express herself is in a very juvenile, sexualized kind of way. That's a whole other topic, and I know that we luckily know a lot about that, and over the last number of years as a society we've been uncovering a lot of that toxicity, and I'm so happy to see it. So basically it's my belief that this dance, there is not hard historical evidence explaining the origins of belly dance. And by the way, belly dance is a misnomer. It's a westernized label. I try to keep more to calling it Oriental dance, or in Arabic it's called Raqs Shar'i. Excuse my Arabic, which means Oriental dance, because it's just dance in that part of the world. And also belly dance was kind of a mislabel by French colonialists who came to Egypt and saw the dance because the women were bearing images, but really it's a hips dance. But many Western people are not aware of that, so I kind of mix it with belly dance so that it's relatable as well, using those two terms interchangeably. So just because we don't have historical documentation of our matriarchal societies doesn't mean that they didn't exist. It's painfully obvious to me that the lack of femininity is the source of most of the mental health issues that people face today. And you've probably heard this expression before when people say if women were in charge, we wouldn't have a lot of the wars that we do have. Our environment probably wouldn't be in the state that it is if women were in charge. And that is because of femininity, not necessarily because of women, but because of femininity, having respect for the earth, having respect for each other, for diversity, for allowing diversity and not having this obsession with domination, in my opinion, is like where conflict and war comes from. And also recognizing that never-ending exploitations of resources, be it women and children or the environment, is hugely detrimental to our well-being. We need more balance in our world, and I'm here to help people cultivate that on an individual level in their lives. My goal is to help people manage their depression and anxiety by teaching them how to embody more femininity and heart-centered spirituality, and in the process bring more balance, healing, love, and light to our world. I have another freebie and another talk where I discuss how the lack of femininity and heart-centered spirituality in our society is particularly harmful to our health. I just said that, but I mean digging more into the spirituality and energetic side of it, because I'm also a Reiki practitioner and I'm very passionate about the chakras. Being half Indian, I'm very interested in learning and exploring my Hindu roots, so a lot of that is worked into my offerings as well. So we survive, but we don't thrive, right? Our society is hyper-masculine, it's hyper-materialistic, and we are taught to place our values outside of ourselves, and we're not really taught how to look within. We're profoundly sick with chronic disease. We have a lot of mental, emotional issues like low self-worth and unfulfilling relationships. We're not taught to cultivate health in these areas of life because, in my opinion, it's not a valuable commodity. A woman is not a valuable commodity in a society if she has a high sense of self-worth. Because, in my opinion, our society, or what's that term that the academic people use that I've been seeing, late stage capitalism, it's not in the best interest of a capitalistic society to encourage a high sense of self-worth, because then they're not able to exploit our vitality as much, because we realize that it's like, oh, I don't need to, for example, work overtime without pay at my job. I don't need to fill this emotional void within myself to numb it by spending money on alcohol or gambling or, endless hours of watching TV, because I know that those kinds of things come from within. So maybe it sounds like I'm preaching a little bit right now. I'm not that pious. I'm not saying that I never have a glass of wine, or I never watch TV, or I never want to buy nice things, It's about doing them mindfully and understanding why we do them. And I also just want to point out to you that we are very much encouraged to mindlessly consume all of those things. And that is what I have a problem with. If we're constantly turning our attention outward to soothe ourselves, we never have the space or the time or the attention or the energy to really dig in and look into the root causes of those things and what we can do about them. Because once we do that, then we can heal from them, and then we're not spending tons of vital life force energy or precious dollars on those external quick fixes that don't actually make us happy. And that is what I hope to accomplish, to help you accomplish with my dance classes. I also like to say to people that belly dance was like my gateway drug into spirituality, and that is why. Because in my opinion, if you approach it with that in mind, then there's just so much possibility that can come from it. So I hope that you enjoy my free class. If you are interested in taking paid classes, getting your friends together and diving a little bit deeper with me into embodying your femininity and having fun while you do it, I would love to hear from you. I'll see you later.